Everything you want in life, the freedom, the success, the respect, doesn't come from motivation. It doesn't come from luck. It comes from the systems you build, the habits you execute, and the daily actions you refuse to skip. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a long-term success plan that compounds every single day, that turns small actions into unstoppable momentum, and that trains your mind to stay focused when everything else is screaming for your attention. If you are ready to stop guessing and start executing, then listen closely, because your life is about to change. Chapter 1. Stop proving and start doing. You have a choice. Every day, every hour, every minute, you have a choice. You can spend your energy proving your worth, or you can spend your energy producing results. That is the distinction. That is the line between those who achieve and those who remain in motion without progress. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. Repeat it. Say it until it is in your bones. Success is not earned by explanation. Success is earned by execution. You do not need their approval. You do not need their permission. You do not need their applause. The world does not hand out trophies for intent. It rewards output. Intent is irrelevant. Action is everything. You have a choice. Consider the people who have built empires. Billionaire entrepreneurs, world-class athletes, innovators. They spend 80% of their time creating. 80%. Not explaining. Not justifying. Not seeking recognition. They focus on building. That is the principle. That is the pattern. You do not rise to the level of admiration. You rise to the level of action. That is the key. You must understand this. Proving yourself is a trap. It is a short-term illusion that consumes attention and energy. You see it everywhere. The worker who constantly brags about their workload. The student who constantly highlights their efforts. The manager who continually justifies decisions. They are trapped in validation. They are not moving forward. They are not producing. They are not building. You do not need to join them. You have a choice. The principle is simple. Measure yourself by output. Measure yourself by progress. Measure yourself by what is built, not what is claimed. That is your standard. That is your rule. Every day, ask, did I produce something today that did not exist yesterday? Did I create value that will persist without my explanation? If the answer is yes, you are in alignment with reality. If the answer is no, stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. Here is the system. First, remove external approval from your decision-making. Do not ask, will they approve? Do not think, will they notice? Do not consider, will they respect this? Those questions are irrelevant. They dilute focus. They fracture energy. They waste time. The system is simple. Decide what is required. Execute. Complete the task. Move on. No explanation necessary. That is efficiency. That is discipline. Second, schedule creation as your priority. Every morning, block time for production. Not for discussion. Not for justification. Production. Build your schedule like a machine. Every hour accounted for. Every task measured against output. No meetings that do not create. No conversations that do not produce. No time wasted proving worth. That is structure. That is power. That is the habit that compounds. Habit is what sustains achievement when motivation fades. Action is the habit you train. Stop proving. Start doing. Third, adopt the repetition rule. Every time you feel the urge to explain, justify, or seek recognition, pause. Check yourself. Ask, is this necessary for output? Will this contribute to results? If the answer is no, do not do it. Redirect energy immediately to action. Repeat the mantra. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. Your mind will adapt. Your body will adapt. The results will follow. It is not about cleverness. It is about discipline. Consider a concrete example. Elon Musk, before Tesla and SpaceX became household names, spent years designing, testing, and building rockets. No press. No social media attention. No validation from peers. He worked in isolation. The world was skeptical. He did not care. He built anyway. That is the blueprint. That is the rule. That is the principle you are adopting. You do not rise to approval. You rise to execution. Stop proving. Start doing. Now, integrate the accountability principle. Track your output daily. Keep a record. Measure what you create, not what you promise. A spreadsheet, a notebook, a task list does not matter. What matters is clarity. What matters is evidence. What matters is measurable progress. Without evidence, you are still proving. With evidence, you are building. That is the distinction. That is the line. You have a choice. Next, embrace discomfort. Doing what others will not requires discipline. It requires patience. It requires silence. You will feel the temptation to explain, to justify, to seek recognition. You must resist. Every moment of resistance strengthens your system. Every action without applause builds your mental muscle. You do not need their permission. You do not need their notice. You need action. Stop proving. Start doing. Let us examine a second principle. Time is finite. Every second spent seeking validation is a second stolen from creation. Every hour spent proving is an hour lost to progress. You cannot recover it. You cannot regain it. That is reality. That is the truth. Therefore, your system must enforce action first. Approval last. Value first. Praise irrelevant. Action unavoidable. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. The practical application is straightforward. Step 1. Identify the tasks that produce measurable results. Step 2. Schedule uninterrupted time to complete those tasks. Step 3. Eliminate all activities that are solely for recognition or validation. Step 4. Repeat daily. This is a system. This is a habit. This is a rule. You are training your mind and body to prioritize execution over approval. You do not debate this system. You follow it. You have a choice. Finally, internalize the principle of persistence. Action must be repeated. Execution must be consistent. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. Small actions, repeated daily, accumulate into irreversible momentum. Momentum creates results that no argument or explanation could ever match. Momentum silences skepticism. Momentum validates itself. You have a choice. Choose action. Choose discipline. Choose the system. Stop proving. Start doing. Chapter 1 ends with a clear mandate. Do not wait for validation. Do not seek applause. Do not explain. Build. Produce. Execute. Track your output. Protect your focus. Repeat the mantra. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. You have a system. You have a framework. You have a rule. Follow it. Apply it. Internalize it. That is the foundation. That is the first step. That is the principle upon which all subsequent action is built. The next chapter will expand this foundation. You will learn to convert small, daily wins into momentum that compounds over time. You will learn how consistency, when structured properly, outperforms talent, motivation, and fleeting inspiration. But first, you must master execution. Stop proving. Start doing. Stop proving. Start doing. That is your responsibility. That is your choice. That is your system. Chapter 2. Small daily wins build immense power. You have a choice. Every day presents an opportunity. Every action has a consequence. You can take the easy route and wait for massive breakthroughs. Or you can take small, deliberate steps that compound into unstoppable momentum. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Repeat it. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Success is not achieved in leaps. It is earned in increments. Tiny, consistent victories accumulate. They build power. They build skill. They build confidence. Reading 10 pages a day. Doing 20 push-ups. Sending one email. One action. Repeated. Without fail. That is how momentum begins. That is how results appear. You have a choice. You can wait for inspiration, or you can act. The choice is yours. Consider this: James Clear's principle of atomic habits. Small behaviors, repeated daily, snowball. They are invisible at first. They appear insignificant. But over time, their power becomes undeniable. One push-up becomes 100. One page becomes a book. One completed task becomes a system. You do not need external recognition. You do not need applause. You need repetition. You need consistency. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Here is the system. Step 1. Identify the smallest possible action that moves you toward your goal. Step 2. Commit to doing it daily, without exception. Step 3. Track it. Measure it. Record it. Step 4. Do not negotiate. Do not rationalize. Do not skip. That is your rule. That is your system. That is how small wins become immense power. You will resist. You will feel impatience. You will question the significance of small actions. That is expected. That is normal. Ignore it. Ignore the desire for immediate results. Focus on the process. Focus on execution. Focus on accumulation. Progress is not linear, but it is guaranteed if the system is followed. You have a choice. Choose action. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. The power of small wins lies in consistency. One single victory does not make a master. Repetition makes a master. Action repeated, day after day, becomes ingrained. Muscle memory of discipline. Neural reinforcement of focus. The body adapts. The mind adapts. The results manifest. You do not need external validation. You do not need permission. You do not need recognition. You need consistency. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Here is a practical rule. Break your objectives into microtasks. Read a page instead of a book. Write one paragraph instead of a chapter. Complete one call instead of 100. Small, measurable, repeatable actions. Each action must be tracked. Each action must be completed. Each action contributes to momentum. Repetition is mandatory. Systematize it. That is your power. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Consider the analogy: compound interest in finance. $1 invested today earns returns tomorrow. The same dollar ignored remains stagnant. Habits are identical. Each small victory is an investment in your future self. Daily action grows into unstoppable force. The math is simple. Execution creates leverage. Momentum accelerates results. You have a choice. Choose to invest. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Discipline is key. You will face days when you do not feel like acting. You will encounter obstacles. You will meet resistance. The test is not in doing when it is easy. The test is in doing when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, and tedious. That is when momentum is built. That is when small actions become powerful habits. You do not need motivation. Motivation fades. Habits last. Repetition lasts. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Here is the accountability system. Write down your micro-task each day. Execute it. Record it. Repeat tomorrow. Do not skip. Do not justify. Do not rationalize. Do not wait. This is a discipline exercise. You are conditioning your mind to produce results automatically. The mind obeys repetition. The body obeys repetition. Results obey repetition. That is the law. That is the principle. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Now, reflect. If you take 10 small actions consistently every day, what does that accumulate to in 1 month? In 3 months? In a year? The answer is immense. The unseen effort compounds into visible achievement. The invisible effort manifests in skill, clarity, and control. That is the law of accumulation. That is the law of small daily wins. You have a choice. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Finally, internalize this principle. Focus on the smallest action you can take. Execute it consistently. Track it. Repeat it without exception. Ignore the noise. Ignore impatience. Ignore the desire for instant results. Master repetition. Master consistency. Master the habit of small wins. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. Repeat the mantra until it guides every action. Repeat it until it defines your day, your week, your system, your life. Chapter 2 concludes with clarity. Success is built, not imagined. Immense power is not granted by inspiration. It is earned through disciplined repetition. You have a system. Identify the micro-action, execute it, track it, repeat it. That is your framework. That is your structure. That is your advantage. The next chapter will teach you to convert this discipline into a system that eliminates excuses before they arise. You will learn to design a framework where action is automatic, where willpower is irrelevant, and where small wins escalate into unstoppable output. One step today compounds into unstoppable momentum tomorrow. You have a choice. Choose to act. Chapter 3. Systems kill excuses before they start. You have a choice. Every action you take either strengthens your system or weakens it. There is no middle ground. Goals are fragile. Goals are fleeting. Goals are promises you make to yourself that rely entirely on willpower and mood. Systems are different. Systems are unyielding. Systems are repeatable. Systems do not care about how you feel. That is the key. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Repeat it. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Understand this clearly. Relying on motivation or willpower is a trap. You will fail. Motivation fades. Willpower exhausts. You do not need permission to act. You do not need bursts of inspiration. You need a system, a structured process that guides your behavior, regardless of circumstance. That is discipline. That is power. That is your advantage. Consider Warren Buffett. He schedules his entire day by the hour. Every meeting, every call, every block of reading is deliberate. He does not rely on energy or mood to decide what to do. He executes according to his system. That is why he achieves consistency that others cannot match. That is principle. That is structure. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Systems are not abstract. They are concrete. They are actionable. They are rules you enforce on yourself. Step 1. Identify the areas of your life that require results. Step 2. Define the repeatable actions that produce those results. Step 3. Embed those actions into your daily routine until they are automatic. Step 4. Remove all options to skip. Remove all reliance on energy. Remove all reliance on motivation. That is how you win. You have a choice. Athletes operate the same way. A professional runner does not say, "I will train if I feel like it." A swimmer does not decide, "I'll swim today if the water feels warm." Training is scheduled. Training is mandatory. Training is tracked. The system dictates the action. Excuses are eliminated before they can appear. That is the power of structure. That is the power of process. That is the system. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Here is the principle. A goal tells you where you want to go. A system tells you how to get there, every day, automatically. Goals rely on hope. Systems rely on execution. Goals inspire. Systems deliver. Goals are fragile. Systems are unstoppable. That is why your focus must shift immediately from achieving to designing. Design your processes. Design your actions. Design your environment. That is your responsibility. You have a choice. The rules for building your system are simple. Rule 1. Minimize decisions. Every time you must decide, you open the door to procrastination and error. Rule 2. Automate the sequence of actions. If it takes multiple steps to begin, simplify. Reduce friction. Rule 3. Track your execution. Without measurement, a system cannot correct itself. Rule 4. Remove optionality. No choices. No excuses. No negotiation. Systems do not negotiate. Systems do not pause. Systems act. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Repeat it. Let us address the human tendency to justify. You will be tempted to argue that your system is too rigid, that it does not allow for creativity, that it is too controlling. That is false. Discipline creates freedom. Structure creates control. When the system is reliable, the mind is freed from constant deliberation. Creativity becomes an asset, not a liability. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Internalize this. Practical application begins immediately. Write down the results you require. Break them into repeatable actions. Schedule those actions in a sequence that eliminates optionality. Track every execution. Review daily. Adjust only when necessary. The system is a living mechanism. It improves with iteration, but it never stops. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. That is the rule. That is the principle. That is your foundation. Let's consider failure. Failure does not come from bad luck. It comes from weak systems. A goal without structure is a fragile vessel. It cracks under pressure. It collapses under distraction. Systems do not fail. Systems absorb stress. Systems maintain progress. That is why you build them. That is why you enforce them. You have a choice. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Repeat it again. Internalize it. Finally, remember, the purpose of a system is to remove excuses before they appear. It is to make the correct action the only action possible. It is to condition the mind and the body to respond predictably, regardless of mood, desire, or approval. You do not negotiate with a system. You do not debate it. You follow it. You act. You measure. You improve. That is how results are secured. That is how excellence is built. That is how momentum becomes unstoppable. You have a choice. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Chapter 3 ends here with clarity. You now understand the principle. Goals are fragile. Systems are unstoppable. You now know the process. Design, execute, track, refine. You now know the mandate. Eliminate reliance on willpower, remove optionality, and enforce discipline. The next chapter will expand this principle by addressing the silent costs of seeking validation. You will learn how attention, energy, and focus are drained by the pursuit of approval, and how a structured system protects them. You have a choice. Choose systems. Choose discipline. Choose action. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Chapter 4. The silent cost of seeking validation. You have a choice. Every day, every action, you decide where your attention goes. You can chase approval. You can seek recognition. You can broadcast your effort to the world. Or you can protect your focus, conserve your energy, and build results in silence. That is the difference between those who succeed and those who exhaust themselves proving. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Repeat it. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Understand this. Validation is a subtle thief. It steals energy. It fragments attention. It interrupts consistency. Every moment spent checking for approval is a moment lost from creation. Every second spent seeking praise is a second unavailable to execution. The cost is silent, but the effect is visible. Progress slows. Habits weaken. Systems break. You do not need permission. You do not need recognition. You do not need applause. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Consider the modern example: social media, endless scrolling, constant comparison, notifications pinging for attention. Every hour consumed in pursuit of approval is an hour stolen from deep work. Successful people understand this. They protect their attention. They build in isolation. They resist the broadcast urge. They act. They produce. They create value that does not require external validation. That is the rule. That is the principle. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Here is the first system: limit exposure. Block social media. Disable notifications. Schedule controlled time for external input. Protect mental bandwidth as fiercely as you protect physical assets. The mind is a tool. It obeys structure. It obeys repetition. It obeys discipline. If you allow constant distraction, your tool becomes weak. You have a choice. Guard your attention. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Next, adopt the private first principle. Build without broadcasting. Complete the work first. Produce in silence. Let the system take care of recognition. Results, when built correctly, announce themselves. Effort without approval is not wasted, it is invested. That is the core rule. That is the framework. You do not need approval to execute. You do not need applause to persist. You have a choice. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Now, consider the cost of seeking validation: fragmented focus, energy divided, habits weakened, every action diluted by the desire to be noticed. This is subtle, but cumulative. A day spent proving to others is a day lost in building for yourself. A week spent seeking approval is a week lost in compounding skill. The difference between progress and stagnation is consistency. The difference between mastery and mediocrity is attention. Guard both. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Practical application begins with rules. Rule 1. Act first, announce later. Complete the work before sharing. Rule 2. Measure value in output, not reactions. Keep records of tasks completed, systems executed, and outcomes achieved. Rule 3. Protect mental energy. Avoid unnecessary debates. Avoid unnecessary approval seeking. Avoid external noise that does not contribute to progress. Systems obey rules. Habits obey repetition. Success obeys neither validation nor praise. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Consider this psychological principle. The brain releases dopamine in response to approval. It creates short-term satisfaction, which hijacks long-term progress. Seeking validation conditions the mind to favor recognition over action. That is why consistent achievers avoid broadcasting. That is why they produce silently. That is why they focus on systems instead of applause. You do not need external confirmation. You do not need applause. You do not need approval. You have a choice. Your results, not their applause, define your life. The mantra is simple and non-negotiable. Repeat it to condition your mind. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Every action you take, every task you complete, every habit you reinforce must serve this principle. Ignore the noise. Ignore the approval seekers. Ignore the broadcast temptation. Focus on output. Protect attention. Build silently. That is discipline. That is control. That is the system. You have a choice. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Achievement does not require applause. Progress does not need validation. Mastery is silent. Success is disciplined. Energy must be protected. Attention must be guarded. Habits must be consistent. Systems must operate without dependence on recognition. You do not rise to applause. You rise to execution. You rise to consistency. You rise to results. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Repeat it. Internalize it. Live it. Chapter 4 ends with clarity. You now understand the silent cost of seeking validation. You now understand the system for protecting energy and attention. You now have the rule. Act first, measure second, ignore applause. The next chapter will expand on attention itself, explaining why it is your most valuable currency and how to protect it rigorously. You have a choice. Protect your focus. Guard your energy. Build silently. Your results, not their applause, define your life. Chapter 5. Attention is your most valuable currency. You have a choice. Every second you spend, every thought you entertain, is an investment. Attention is finite. Attention is valuable. Attention is currency. Your output, your progress, your results are determined entirely by where you allocate it. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Repeat it. Internalize it. Distraction is the enemy of progress. It is subtle. It is constant. It comes as notifications, interruptions, meetings that accomplish nothing, and tasks that feel urgent but are irrelevant. Every distraction steals your currency. Every divided focus reduces your output. That is the cost. That is the price. You have a choice. Protect your attention. Spend it wisely. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Consider the most successful people in history. Billionaires, entrepreneurs, creators. They protect attention like a fortress. Warren Buffett schedules reading and thinking blocks. Elon Musk plans uninterrupted time for deep engineering work. They do not negotiate with distraction. They do not multitask for entertainment. They execute in focused intervals. That is the system. That is the rule. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Here is the principle. Nothing of value is created without focused attention. Multitasking is a lie. Fragmented thought produces fragmented results. Every hour you divide, you dilute. Every task you interrupt, you weaken. Guard your mental bandwidth. Treat attention like money. Spend it wisely. Invest it in high-return activities. Ignore low-value distractions. That is your system. That is your discipline. That is your edge. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. You will face temptation. The urge to check email. The desire to respond immediately. The pull of social media. These are low-value investments. They provide temporary satisfaction and long-term cost. Do not yield. Your attention cannot be regained. Once it is lost, it is gone. You have a choice. Protect your focus. Allocate your time deliberately. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Here is the system. Step 1. Schedule focus blocks. Treat them as non-negotiable. Step 2. Remove interruptions. Phones in another room. Notifications off. Step 3. Define clear outcomes for each block. Step 4. Track adherence. Measure how much attention you successfully protected. Systems enforce focus. Habits sustain it. Attention becomes a resource you control. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Consider the compounding effect. 1 hour of undistracted focus daily produces more results than 10 hours of fragmented activity. Skill improves. Knowledge grows. Tasks are completed. Progress accelerates. The system compounds. The principle is simple. Attention properly allocated produces results. Attention wasted produces regret. That is the truth. You have a choice. Protect it. Invest it. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Now, reflect on external inputs. People constantly demand your attention. Meetings, calls, messages, requests for approval. These are not automatically valuable. Evaluate. Prioritize. Delegate or decline what does not serve your system. Do not allow others to spend your currency for you. You control allocation. You decide what deserves focus. That is discipline. That is freedom. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Here is the mental framework. Your mind is a bank. Each thought, each minute, each action is a deposit or a withdrawal. Ensure that deposits go toward growth. Ensure that withdrawals are intentional, planned, and strategic. Protect the account. Do not let frivolous distractions bankrupt your mental capital. Systems and habits are your safeguard. Habits train the mind to resist unnecessary withdrawal. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Finally, Integrate this into daily life. Plan every hour with intention. Work in blocks. Avoid reactive behavior. Measure results. Protect attention like a CEO protects revenue. Discipline is non-negotiable. Focus is mandatory. Execution is your only authority. That is the rule. That is the system. That is the law of results. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Repeat it until it directs every action. Chapter 5 concludes with clarity. Your output is determined by your focus. Your success is dictated by your attention. Protect it. Allocate it deliberately. Invest it in high-value actions. Build systems to eliminate distraction. Measure adherence. Repeat daily. The next chapter will expand on mastering mornings as a way to claim attention before the day steals it from you. You have a choice. Protect your focus. Guard your attention. Execute without compromise. Attention is currency. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Chapter 6. Master your morning. Master your life. You have a choice. Every day begins with a moment of decision. You can let the day dictate your actions, your focus, your energy. Or you can dictate the day. You can set the tone. You can claim control before the world makes demands on you. That is the principle. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Repeat it. Own your morning. Own your life. Mornings are not casual. They are decisive. The first hour determines the next 12. Every choice, every thought, every action flows from the initial mental state. If your morning is reactive, scattered, distracted, your day will follow. If your morning is deliberate, structured, and disciplined, your day will follow. That is reality. You have a choice. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Consider the most effective individuals in history. Tim Ferriss writes extensively about morning routines. CEOs, athletes, and creators win by owning the first hour. Meditation, movement, planning, journaling. These are not suggestions. They are systems. They prime the mind. They sharpen focus. They set energy. They dictate execution. That is the rule. That is the discipline. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Here is the system. Step 1. Wake at a consistent time every day. Consistency trains the mind. It eliminates decision fatigue. Step 2. Perform a deliberate mental practice. Meditation, reflection, journaling. This calibrates attention. Step 3. Engage in physical movement, stretching, exercise, or walking. The body follows the mind. Step 4. Plan the day. Prioritize high-value actions. Schedule focus blocks. Identify critical outcomes. Systems enforce excellence. Habits sustain it. Own your morning. Own your life. You will resist. You will rationalize. You will say, I will sleep in. I will start later. I will skip the practice. That is weakness. That is surrender. Discipline does not negotiate. Execution does not wait. The morning is not a suggestion. It is an opportunity. The first hour is leverage. Protect it. Use it deliberately. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Practical application. Prepare the night before. Lay out your clothes. Set up your workspace. Determine your first task. Reduce friction. Reduce decisions. Make the system automatic. Morning success depends on preparation. Preparation enforces discipline. Execution is inevitable when friction is eliminated. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Consider the principle. The mind is malleable in the first hour. Habits form more easily. Energy is fresh. Willpower is intact. Systems work best when the mind is disciplined and calm. Claim the first hour. Set your mental tone. Establish clarity. Prioritize action. Dominate the day before it begins. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Failures in execution stem from neglecting the morning. Tasks are delayed. Distractions accumulate. Energy wanes. Momentum is lost. Those who dominate their mornings neutralize chaos before it arises. They establish order. They enforce systems. They claim attention. That is the difference. That is the advantage. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Next, create a ritual that anchors focus. Meditation or reflection centers the mind. Journaling clarifies priorities. Physical movement primes energy. Planning ensures actions align with outcomes. Rituals are not optional. They are mandatory. They condition the mind to respond predictably. They remove reliance on willpower. They enforce the system. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Control the first hour, and you control the entire day. Execution follows structure. Habits enforce discipline. Systems eliminate chaos. Energy is preserved. Attention is directed. Progress becomes inevitable. You have a choice. Begin deliberately. Act with purpose. Claim the morning. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Repeat it. Live it. Apply it. Chapter 6 concludes with clarity. You now understand the leverage of mornings. You now have a system. Wake consistently, meditate, move, plan, execute. You now know the rule. The first hour dictates the day. The next chapter will teach you how momentum favors the relentless, showing how repeated execution compounds results over time. You have a choice. Claim it. Control it. Execute. Own your morning. Own your life. Own your morning. Own your life. Chapter 7. Momentum favors the relentless. You have a choice. Every day, every action, you decide whether to move or to pause. Momentum is not accidental. Momentum is earned. It grows from consistent, deliberate effort repeated without exception. Consistency builds momentum. Momentum multiplies results. One missed day breaks nothing. One day skipped is not failure. But persistent streaks break limits. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Repeat it. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Understand this. Success compounds like money. Small, consistent actions accumulate over time. The same principle that governs finance applies to life. A single dollar invested daily grows into wealth through compound interest. The same is true for skills, habits, and results. Daily execution compounds. Momentum accelerates. Streaks create leverage. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Consider the individuals who achieve at the highest level. They do not rely on bursts of motivation. They rely on repetition. They show up every day without negotiation. Athletes train, artists create, writers write, entrepreneurs execute. One session builds skill. The next session adds leverage. Over time, exponential growth occurs. That is momentum. That is the principle. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. The key is consistency, not intensity. A single massive effort followed by inactivity produces no momentum. Small, repeated actions create persistent force. One push-up repeated daily builds strength over months. One page written daily builds a manuscript over a year. One email sent daily advances your career. The principle is scalable. The result is unstoppable. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Here is the system. Step 1. Identify the core action that drives results. Step 2. Schedule it daily, without exception. Step 3. Track execution. Step 4. Reinforce the habit through repetition and measurement. Step 5. Allow no negotiation. Momentum favors the relentless. Momentum is created by adherence to process, not by random effort. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. You will encounter obstacles. Fatigue. Boredom. Distraction. Life will attempt to disrupt your streak. That is expected. That is normal. Success does not favor avoidance. It favors persistence. It favors action in spite of difficulty. It favors those who show up, even when the work is mundane, tedious, or uncomfortable. That is the law. That is the rule. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Consider the compounding effect. 10 minutes of focused work daily results in over 60 hours per year. A single push-up repeated daily accumulates into thousands over months. Compound action exceeds bursts of effort every time. Streaks are leverage. Momentum accelerates results exponentially. That is the reality. That is the system. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Practical application begins with tracking. Create a visual system. Calendar, spreadsheet, journal. Mark every day of completion. Visibility reinforces streaks. It trains the mind to continue. It motivates the system to operate automatically. Do not allow excuses to disrupt it. The streak is sacred. Momentum favors the relentless. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Now, integrate reflection. Review streaks weekly. Measure results. Adjust minor errors in process. Do not abandon the streak. Small course corrections enhance momentum without interrupting it. The principle is simple. Incremental improvement combined with consistent execution produces exponential results. Momentum does not require genius. It requires persistence. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Showing up every day is a non-negotiable rule. It is a system. It is a discipline. It is the engine that compounds effort into results. Missing once is insignificant. Missing repeatedly is destructive. Persistent streaks break limits. Momentum favors those who commit to repetition. It does not favor those who debate, procrastinate, or rationalize. You have a choice. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Chapter 7 concludes with clarity. You now understand the law of momentum. You now have a system. Identify core actions, schedule daily execution, track adherence, resist disruption, and persist relentlessly. The next chapter will teach you how to eliminate distractions surgically, ensuring that the momentum you build is uninterrupted and fully leveraged. You have a choice. Show up. Execute. Persist. Momentum favors the relentless. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Show up. Every day. No excuses. Chapter 8. Eliminate distraction like a surgeon. You have a choice. Every action, every environment, every notification either preserves focus or destroys it. Distractions are parasites. They infiltrate the mind. They consume energy. They fragment attention. They sabotage momentum. That is the truth. That is the reality. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Repeat it. Internalize it. Understand this. Every distraction has a cost. Even a brief glance at a phone, a single check of email, a split-second response to a notification interrupts deep work. It breaks flow. It fractures mental bandwidth. Recovery requires effort. Momentum stalls. Energy is lost. Progress is delayed. You have a choice. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Consider the practices of the elite. Deep work blocks are scheduled like meetings. Phones are removed from the workspace. Single tasking is enforced. The mind is allowed uninterrupted periods to execute complex tasks. Multitasking is forbidden. Context switching is minimized. Results accelerate. Energy is preserved. That is the principle. That is the system. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. The rule is simple. Identify all sources of distraction. Treat them as threats. Remove them. Phone notifications off. Apps restricted. Social media scheduled. Interruptions minimized. Meetings and calls carefully filtered. Every external stimulus that does not serve execution is eliminated. That is control. That is discipline. That is mastery. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Next, consider internal distractions. Thoughts that wander. Doubt. Anxiety. Temptation to rationalize. Mental clutter. These, too, are parasites. They infect the mind if left unchecked. The system must include deliberate focus practice, meditation, planning, journaling. These train the mind to return to the task without argument. Discipline directs thought. Repetition reinforces it. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Practical application. Block time for deep work. Define specific outcomes. Isolate yourself physically and mentally. No multitasking. No interruptions. Use visual or environmental cues to signal focus. Doors closed. Devices silenced. Systems operate automatically. Habits reinforce protection. You do not negotiate with distraction. You cut it out. You defend attention as you would defend life. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. The cost of inattention is high. Missed opportunities. Lost momentum. Fractured systems. Reduced output. Fragmented attention is fatal to long-term results. The mind obeys patterns. Habits dictate performance. If distraction is tolerated, systems fail. If focus is defended, execution flourishes. You have a choice. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Consider the cumulative effect. 10 minutes of fragmented attention daily multiplies into hours lost weekly. Energy is drained. Output diminishes. Conversely, protecting focus through structured blocks produces compounding results. Clarity increases. Momentum accelerates. Execution is precise. Results become inevitable. The principle is simple. Distraction kills. Protection enables growth. You have a choice. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Now, integrate the mental framework. Treat distraction like a surgeon treats infection. Identify. Isolate. Remove. Prevent recurrence. Treat it ruthlessly. Even minor distractions, if ignored, infect larger systems. Do not tolerate intrusion. Do not rationalize. Do not negotiate. Systems and habits enforce boundaries automatically. Execution becomes automatic. Results become inevitable. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Freedom comes from control. Control comes from focus. Focus is protected by systems, routines, and habits. Energy, attention, and momentum are preserved when distraction is eliminated. Weakness is indulging attention theft. Strength is guarding it. Discipline is enforcing it. Habit is maintaining it. You have a choice. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Chapter 8 concludes with clarity. You now understand distraction as a parasite. You now have the system. Isolate, remove, enforce, repeat. You now know the rule. Focus is protected or progress is lost. The next chapter will expand on the compounding power of habits, showing how daily repetition surpasses fleeting motivation and sustains momentum indefinitely. You have a choice. Guard your attention. Defend your energy. Execute with precision. Focus is freedom. Focus is freedom. Protect it relentlessly. Chapter 9. Habits compound. Motivation decays. You have a choice. Every day, every action, you decide whether to rely on fleeting emotion or on structured behavior. Motivation is temporary. Motivation is unreliable. Motivation cannot be counted on. It comes. It goes. It cannot sustain results. Habits, on the other hand, are permanent. Habits endure. Habits enforce action automatically. Habits compound over time. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Repeat it. Motivation fades. Habits last. Understand this clearly. Your daily routine determines your destiny. One isolated burst of effort does not create mastery. One surge of enthusiasm does not produce results. Only repeated, disciplined action builds skill, creates output, and generates momentum. Olympic athletes train daily, without exception. Writers write every day, regardless of mood. Entrepreneurs execute their systems consistently, ignoring desire and inspiration. That is the difference. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Here is the principle. Build your system so that it operates independently of mood. Do not rely on motivation. Do not rely on fleeting energy. Do not wait for desire. Instead, construct habits that enforce discipline. Design routines that repeat automatically. Embed them in your schedule. Track them daily. Refine them when necessary. That is how results are guaranteed. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Consider the psychology. The brain rewards repetition. Neural pathways strengthen with consistent action. Habits train the mind to respond predictably. Motivation triggers irregular action. Habits trigger reliable action. Motivation is a spark. Habits are a fire. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. That is the system. That is the rule. That is the path to mastery. Practical application. Identify the keystone habits that produce disproportionate results. Reading, exercise, focused work, planning, journaling. Schedule them daily. Execute them regardless of mood. Track completion. Refine gradually. Remove friction. Embed habits until they operate automatically. Motivation is irrelevant. Habit is decisive. You have a choice. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. The power of habit is compounding. One small action repeated consistently grows into mastery. One push-up every day accumulates to thousands. One page written daily becomes a book. One disciplined call every day expands networks, influence, and income. Small actions repeated are far more powerful than occasional bursts of inspired effort. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. You will encounter resistance. You will feel boredom, fatigue, or distraction. That is normal. Habit is what carries you through. Systems enforce the action when desire disappears. The action becomes automatic. Execution becomes inevitable. Success is the product of repetition, not enthusiasm. You have a choice. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Here is the accountability system. Track each habit daily. Maintain a visual record. Use streaks to reinforce consistency. Review weekly. Adjust when necessary. Avoid reliance on moods. Avoid reliance on willpower alone. Habits compound. Motivation decays. This is the law of results. You obey it, or it dictates your failure. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Consider long-term compounding. One habit maintained over 1 year transforms capability. Over 5 years, it transforms identity. Over a decade, it transforms life. Systems and habits shape the trajectory of your existence. Motivation is fleeting. Habit is permanent. That is the law. That is the system. That is your choice. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Mastery is produced silently, daily, and reliably. It does not depend on excitement or mood. It depends on repetition. It depends on systems. It depends on disciplined execution. Build habits that work even when motivation disappears. Trust the process. Trust the system. Let compounding action drive results. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Chapter 9 concludes with clarity. You now understand the permanence of habits over the fickleness of motivation. You now have the system, Identify keystone habits, embed them into your routine, execute daily, track rigorously, refine gradually. The next chapter will teach you how to build your life and your legacy in private, showing why the work done out of sight is the work that lasts. You have a choice. Build habitually. Execute consistently. Trust systems. Motivation fades. Habits last. Motivation fades. Habits last. Chapter 10. Your legacy is built in private. You have a choice. Every action, every hour, every day is an investment in your future. Success is not created for applause. Success is not crafted for recognition. Success is forged silently. The hours when no one is watching. The effort unseen. The repetition uncelebrated it. That is where results are built. That is where mastery is earned. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Repeat it. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Understand this clearly. Public attention is fleeting. Praise is temporary. Recognition is unreliable. They are not measures of achievement. Real accomplishment is measured by output. Real success is measured by the systems you follow, the habits you maintain, and the results you produce over time. The world does not witness your struggle. The world does not reward preparation. The world rewards execution. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Consider the most successful people in history. They rise early. They work late. They read, write, plan, and create when no one observes. Their victories are not broadcast. Their progress is not posted. Their work is deliberate, disciplined, and hidden. Yet it compounds. Yet it multiplies. Yet it defines their lives. That is the principle. That is the law. You have a choice. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Here is the system. First, schedule hidden hours of creation. Identify the blocks of time when you are uninterrupted. Treat these periods as sacred. Second, execute relentlessly. Work as if no one will ever know. Focus entirely on output. Third, track results privately. Measure systems, not recognition. Refine quietly. Repeat without deviation. This is the structure that guarantees progress. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. You will face temptation, desire for attention, urge to broadcast progress, fear of being overlooked. Ignore it. Recognition is irrelevant. Approval is irrelevant. What matters is the compounding effect of private, consistent action. The work done out of sight builds skill, confidence, and momentum. It trains the mind. It trains the body. It produces results that no applause can accelerate. You have a choice. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Practical application. Remove distraction. Eliminate the urge to post, share, or explain. Focus on execution. Commit to private excellence. Track the systems that produce results. Review weekly. Adjust quietly. This is how mastery is achieved. This is how legacy is created. The principle is simple. Work first. Recognition later. Execution always. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Consider the compounding effect. Small, private actions repeated daily produce outcomes that public effort cannot match. Habits, systems, focus, and momentum accumulate unseen. By the time recognition occurs, the work is already done. The edge belongs to those who operate in private, who resist distraction, who refuse validation, and who enforce disciplined execution. That is the law of results. That is the principle. You have a choice. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Finally, internalize the philosophy. Your legacy is built silently. It is constructed in private hours. It is reinforced through consistent action. It does not rely on applause, praise, or attention. It relies on you, your systems, your habits, and your discipline. Protect your focus. Protect your energy. Execute daily. Repeat daily. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. Chapter 10 concludes with clarity. You now understand that mastery is private. You now have the system. Execute unseen, track results, refine quietly, and repeat relentlessly. You now have the rule. Build silently, consistently, and deliberately. Your life is the product of hidden hours and disciplined action. The next step is yours. You have a choice. Execute. Protect. Build. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. The work you do when unseen shapes the life you will live. If you found this audiobook valuable and want more actionable systems to build focus, habits, and unstoppable momentum, subscribe to the channel now and join the community of people who are learning to build their lives in private. Do not wait for approval. Do not wait for recognition. Take action. Subscribe and keep building.